Hello. Um, During this presentation, you might hear a little bit of background noise. I apologize. I have family. But aside from that, this is assignment 4, assignment on basically here, conquest and native revolt. So specifically, conquest slash native revolt. That's what we're gonna basically cover right there. So why was it conquest and or native revolt? All right. So to basically begin, let's start the Spaniards. The Spaniards, from what I've seen, the videos were a very big help. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Estrada, if anything. But as far as that goes, if anything, um, when it comes to the actual Spaniard invasion, it was a very messed up thing. Very messed up. Though at the beginning, like it stated, there were many voyages. One of those voyages being that of, say, for example, I believe it was Hernan Cortez. Not to mention, many of those, many of the, I believe it was Hernan Cortez's people were about 11 ships ish. It was not a certified trip or anything like that. There was many more prior that were, but Hernan Cortez was not. When it came to Hernan Cortez, mainly it was for their boredom, basically. They were basically illegal men, trip to Mexico, and it happened like around 1500s, 1519-ish. And then basically from Cuba, they basically tripped to Mexico, and there they had met and I always butcher this name, Tenochtitlan. And so from there, they basically saw the wealth, the valuables that they held from those particular places. They also stand true to their faith, no matter what, even if they were criminals, or technically, I guess you can also kind of call them pirates ish. They weren't soldiers at all, though. They weren't soldiers. They were just criminals. They were out for adventure. Basically, what you see there. But like you see, for example, the Spanish, the Spanish themselves, they believed that conquest was in their right. They believed that it was okay to kill as far as that goes, as long as they're spreading their religion, as long as they were also even feeding into their valuables. Much of much of this so-called like feeding into the valuables was to basically feed their actual needs for gold. Basically, they wanted that treasure. Just like as far as even going as far as once they made their native allies, which I will also cover right now. Once they met their native allies, they went conquest, mainly on the Aztecs. And so I'm actually going to share my screen now. Let's see here, share screen. We're doing this one here. Right, hopefully I got that screen up. Do I got that screen right? I hope so. Let's see here. Up. I might have done the wrong one. There we are. So basically, here, the Spaniards were basically in the document that was presented in what they call el requerimiento. Basically, the Spaniards picked gold like monkeys. It was basically a form that was basically covered through the actual native allies, the Aztecs, well, not the Aztecs, but the native allies. They basically yearned for that gold. No matter what, all the natives basically saw gold as not really much to basically look at. But to Spaniards, to everyone outside, gold was a treasure to behold. Uh, Kind of think like of El Dorado, some type sort, that one movie where they were going crazy. Basically, that is what happened right there. Their greed kind of just kept growing as more. Once they saw more gold, they saw more reason to conquer as well, and they couldn't do it alone. They even got the okay to actually conquer too, as long as they're spreading the religion and everything. However, they couldn't conquer everything alone, and that's where the Spanish native allies come in. Much of the Spanish native allies, like I remember it was, if I can remember correctly, much of those allies were the Yope. I believe it was the Yope Tabascans, Sembolans, Texicans, many, many, many more. But basically, all those allies right there went and conquered all of them, all of those areas. Basically, and you would think like they wouldn't gain anything, but as a matter of fact, they really hated the Aztecs. They hated the Aztecs for a while now. However, they were also not only that, they hated like their gods and everything, but they were even promised like riches. They were manipulated through Hernan Cortez, who was very, very charismatic. He basically was able to persuade everyone to his side in order to take over the Aztecs. Though, bear in mind, different languages. How did that happen? It's kind of, you would think that's somewhat impossible, but it really isn't, because there was one person that they called, I believe her name was La Malinche, if I remember here correctly. Let me see if I can get the pronunciation on that name. It was, yes, La Malinche. And so basically, she basically learned how to translate as far as the New Spanish, the language of the Aztecs, all those languages and everything. And she was basically seen as Hernan Cortez's treasure. She was basically, in many documents, seen as a conquistador. She was seen as I always forget this name, concubine, one of Hernan Cortez's personal favorites, if anything. But yeah, as you could see, it was a very, very messed up situation. Almost, we're talking about in one scenario alone, they killed over 6,000 individuals, whether it be women, children, even men, during their raid to the Aztecs themselves in the Aztec city. It went on for a whole, I believe it was 3 months, and they were attacking via ships. I believe the ships were Chipentlos or something like that. Chipentlos. And then from there, they would even attack the city through the main street, which was just one big bridge. And basically, the Aztecs, how they dealt with that, they just broke it down. They really just broke it down. And they were like, all right, you know, try it now. But then they just threw in rocks, and they were taking out rocks. But finally, it was just too much to bear. And the Spanish made it onto the land. And well, Spanish and the native allies, even though the native allies did suffer some casualties, we're talking like 200, almost, we're talking like almost 2,000 to 3,000 actual Aztecs died in that conquest, in which did succeed, if anything. All right, well, that was my presentation on assignment for native slash conquest, or native revolt slash conquest, if anything. I thank you and have a wonderful day.